Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup, the show where we round up all of the latest news of the past week of nerdy movies. We got some interesting stories to talk about today, and let's just jump right into it. So, first up, remember that Avengers game? It is, officially coming to an end. I mean, it's already come to an end technically, but apparently they're taking it off of storefronts. Let's just look into the tweet that they put out. Xbox players. Oh, I guess I should specifically say that this is specifically for Xbox players. I'm actually not sure what the status of it is for other platforms, but this is for Xbox players. Marvel's Avengers Definitive Edition is up to 90% off until September 26th. Definitive Edition includes nearly all previously released content, from playable heroes to story expansions to hundreds of comics-inspired outfits. This is your last chance to purchase the game before it leaves storefronts on September 30th. Oh, okay, so I see. So they're saying that the game is 90% off on Xbox until September 26th. But it's not actually all that clear as to whether or not it's leaving all storefronts or just Xbox storefronts on September 20th. I would assume it's all storefronts because it would be really weird to just take it off of Xbox but leave it up on PlayStation and Steam and whatnot. Either way, I mean, I would recommend it for 90% off. What does that come to? I can't do percentages in my head. I'm assuming that's something like $5 maybe. I don't know. So for a really low price, I mean, I'd recommend picking it up and playing the campaign, because the campaign wasn't terrible. It wasn't particularly good, but I didn't hate it. And man, just what a sad game. I really do just feel like there's, I mean, I'm not going to say that there's no potential for a live service Marvel game, but I certainly don't want it. That really was when the game fell apart for me. Actually, the first, bit of the campaign, I actually think is really good. Because when it starts off, it's basically just a Miss Marvel game. And Miss Marvel is, a wonderful character in it. And you sort of start off playing as her, and you're playing through just a pretty, paint by the numbers, third-person action-adventure single-player campaign, and it's good. I enjoy it. And then you reach a very specific point where the game opens up and becomes a live service game, and it's obvious that you're playing this single-player campaign, but you're having to go through live service game missions with live service mission structures, and it just turns into this never-ending cycle of playing a bunch of levels where you have to capture points, and it's it just becomes very obvious that you're playing a live service game by yourself, and it just becomes really weird and disjointed. But sprinkled in between that experience are some pretty cool levels, and overall it's if they had just let Crystal Dynamics make a single player Avengers game, I think they probably would have made a cool one, because there are again, like I said, the beginning of the game is actually really good. And then there are moments that do shine throughout the gameplay experience. So it's just disappointing that they felt they needed this to be a live service game. I don't think that every IP needs that, or I don't know that every fan base even wants that. Do Marvel fans really want to play an Avengers game forever? Is that even something that they want, or do they want something more akin to what they got from the Marvel movies, which is, a focused game that is focused on delivering a good story and a good experience and has really good cinematic moments? I feel that's really more of what Marvel fans want. So, I don't know. Again, I don't think that the campaign is terrible. So I would, if you can find it for $5, sure, go ahead and pick it up and play through it, and you'll probably enjoy yourself. But yeah, by the way, I never touched the live service component, so I can't really speak to that, but everyone says it sucks, so I believe them. So, anyways, let me know what you think about Marvel's Avengers down in the comments down below. All right, next up, Rick Riordan. This is the author of the Percy Jackson book, and I was just reading an article about him and or about the Percy Jackson show, and the article just they showed off like this just completely based statement by Rick Riordan, and I kind of just wanted to talk about it for a bit. So this is coming from CBR. This is a quote by Rick Riordan. "You are upset / disappointed / frustrated / angry because a black actor has been cast to play a character who was described as white in the books. She doesn't look the way I always imagined," Riordan wrote in May 2022. "I have been clear, as the author, that I was looking for the best actors to inhabit and bring to life the personalities of these characters, and that physical appearance was secondary for me." The author continued, "You refuse to believe her selection could have been based on merit. Without having seen her play the part, you have prejudged her." Pre plus judge equals prejudice. Wait, when did he... and decided she must have been hired simply to fill a quota or tick a diversity box. Okay, sorry. It says Rick Riordan wrote. I'm not sure if he like tweeted this out or where exactly he wrote it in, but bro, that's a really based statement by Rick Riordan. And that's really like the frustrating thing about when we talk about like race swaps and all of that. Like, obviously there are the people that are just completely against race swaps, and I guess there's not really much you can say to dissuade those people. But then you have like the other arguments that pop up to where people say that anytime they see a race swap, they're like, "Oh, they just hired her because of in order to fill a diversity quota. It can't possibly because she was just the best person for the role." When that's just such a... Like, yes, would it be bad if somebody did that? I would argue yes. Like, if you're not getting like the person that's like the best fit for the role that you've written, then and you get them just because they're black, that is weird. Like that is weird. But I do have an issue when people just assume that that's the case, right? Like when you look at The Little Mermaid, this is actually a kind of a similar situation to the Little Mermaid remake, where the director came out and said that they had a bunch of casting auditions or whatever, and of various like women of various races auditioned for the role. But Halle Bailey was the best person for the role, according to the director, according to what she said. And it's like, could she be lying? Is it possible that Bob Chapek stormed in the room and they're like, "You gotta get a black woman because we gotta fill the diversity quota"? It's like, I guess that's possible, but you have literally no proof of that. Like, you have no proof of that. Because the other interesting thing about the Little Mermaid situation, and I always go back to the Little Mermaid situation because I think it's just a really good example of how I think that the culture wars have gotten kind of out of hand, to where, from what I've seen, and I could be wrong, people could point me to examples of this happening, but I don't even think Disney put out a bunch of like virtue signaling marketing that was like, "This is the first black Disney princess." Even though that would actually be flat out wrong because Tiana exists, but it was like, "Experience history in the making. A black Ariel. She's black. Look at her. Look how black she is." I don't think Disney even like hyped up the fact that Ariel was black. Like, I'm pretty sure they always just presented this as the Little Mermaid remake in live action. Like, I'm pretty sure that's generally how they presented it for the most part. It's like random culture warriors that made a big deal out of it. And so that's the main reason why I feel that people that are like super against race swaps are kind of losing the plot a bit. Especially like when you have to have the fucking author of the book that is an executive producer on the series and was obviously check marking all the casts. When you have to have the author of Percy Jackson come out and be like, "Hey, can you guys stop being fucking weird? I cast her because she's the best." And by the way, if you don't know, Annabeth is played by a black girl in the new Percy Jackson show coming on Disney Plus. It's like, I casted her because she was the best for the role. Stop being fucking weird. That's when I feel like you guys have just lost the plot. Like, and again, to be clear, if you're just flat out against race swaps, I mean, hey, that's you. I don't know. Like, I think that's silly. I don't. I feel like, in my opinion, unless the character, like the main essence of the character that like makes the character what they are, and is really important for their role in the story, unless that has to do with race, I just don't care about race swaps. And by the way, like I would say like an example of that is like Atticus Finch. Pretty important that Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird is white. Because literally the entire point of that character is that he is the only white lawyer that is willing to represent a black man during the time period that the book takes place in. You can't really cast Atticus Finch as a black guy because it just wouldn't really work or be as effective. But like The Little Mermaid, Annabeth, literally doesn't matter. Especially when if I remember in the Percy Jackson books, literally like the gods of the kids of the gods were of various races. It was literally like the entire one of the main points of the gods was that they were out there having babies with all with all flavors of men and women. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I saw this quote and I was like, that's kind of based for Rick Riordan to just come out and say that. Let me know about what you have to say about his quote and about race swaps in general. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your opinion. By the way, next story. All right, so we have a story here about the Captain Marvel budget. It was initially reported as being one thing, and then other reportings came out sort of dismantling that initial reporting. So let's get into it here. It's coming from CBR. Per Forbes, Disney has revealed in recently disclosed company filings that the upcoming Marvel superhero movie cost $270 million to make. This is $140 million more than Vanity Fair reported in its interviews with the Marvels director Nia DaCosta. At $270 million, The Marvels becomes the most expensive title of Phase 5, beating Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania at $200 million and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 at $250 million, as well as Disney Plus limited series Secret Invasion, which for some godforsaken reason cost $212 million. Even with the $55 million subsidy the Marvels received from the UK government, the budget for the upcoming MCU entry still comes in at a hefty $219.8 million. According to Forbes, this means that the Marvels will have to gross at least $439.6 million at the box office to break even, as studios only get roughly half of theater takings. I will say I do think that the break even point is probably going to be something more at like $500 to $600 million, only because you also have to take into account the marketing budget, because remember, marketing budgets are not necessarily put into the budget of the movie itself. So I don't know exactly where the break-even point is going to be when you take into marketing. So just keep that in mind. But either way, I was like when that Vanity Fair interview initially came out, and I saw that they only spent $130 million on the movie. I was like, hey, thank Christ, because Hollywood movie budgets have been getting just crazy insane recently. And it's not even so much that they're spending all this money to make movies, but these days you rarely see the money in the product itself. It's like we were talking about The Little Mermaid earlier. Apparently that movie cost more than $200 million to make. Literally how and why? I have no idea how that movie cost as much money as it did. And I don't remember exactly how it cost, but I think it was over $200 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. If you're going to spend 200 something, well, how much was it? Hold on. If you're going to spend $200 million on that movie, it didn't look like it. That movie looked like ass. But then you get a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and that movie looked great. I could actually like see the money that was being spent on the sets and the really good CGI. Look how, if you like, Rocket Raccoon is one of the most incredible CGI creatures, legitimately, like up there with Caesar in my opinion, from the Planet of the Apes. And you know, I'm looking at, and if you're really telling me that they spent $270 million on the Marvels, I'm looking at that trailer and it doesn't look particularly good. Like, I don't think the movie looks terrible. I actually think the movie looks like a lot of fun. But in terms of just what I'm looking at on the screen, it doesn't look like a $270 million movie. Like, where is this movie going? The money laundering, they are not beating the money laundering allegations. So, I don't know, man. Now, do I think the Marvels will make? I mean, even they said that the movie has to make how much did they say? $439 million to break the budget. I mean, I think it probably will. When you look at the first Captain Marvel, which made $1 billion, like, has the superhero movie been taking a blow lately? As far as interest from general audiences, it absolutely has. So I don't think this movie will make $1 billion, but I think it'll make at least $600 million. And if it's good, I could see it getting up to the $700-800 million dollar level. So I don't know. We'll see. Although, to be honest, like, obviously the first Captain Marvel wasn't particularly good, so maybe this one just completely flops. I'm also going to be interested to see how Aquaman does, because yeah, that movie somehow made $1 billion, but I don't know, I didn't think it was particularly good. I don't feel like that movie has really stuck around in the pop culture. Like, are people going to be interested in Aquaman 2 when it comes out? I don't know. So we're gonna really see. But goddamn Jesus Christ, $270 million. Can't get over that. But either way, next story. All right, Doom Patrol. We have the release month for it. This is coming from CBR. Confirmed by Entertainment Weekly, the final part of the show's 4th season will debut on Max in October of 2023. This makes it almost 9 months since Season 4A wrapped up, prompting many fans to question whether Warner Bros. Discovery had just scrapped the episodes entirely. So this is good, or this is cool. I really love Doom Patrol. I have not kept up with the more recent seasons, and I do feel bad about that, because it's a really great show. I definitely will catch up at some point. Probably won't catch up in order to watch the show like as this final part of season 4 is coming out. But I'm hoping that they knew that this was going to be the final season as they were making it, and that the show wraps up in like a good, satisfying way, and you know, there isn't some big cliffhanger. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that Doom Patrol can just go down as a really fantastic show. Because it is really great. It probably is the most underrated like superhero property out there. Because I feel like not a ton of people know about it. Even though it's fantastic. So yeah, excited for Doom Patrol fans and for myself to eventually catch up with the show. All right, so next up we have a logo for the TMNT Mutant Mayhem spin-off show that's coming to Paramount Plus. It's going to be called Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And yeah, it is set for 2024. I'm cautiously optimistic about this. You know, growing up, there were always like random spin-off shows of like Kung Fu Panda and like Monsters versus Aliens, and traditionally those spin-off shows haven't been particularly good. And I do really love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Like, I thought that was a great movie, and I want to be excited about a spin-off show, but I don't know. I'll definitely check it out, but I'm just really hoping that it's actually like good and it doesn't just feel like a disposable thing that they're just throwing onto the Paramount Plus content train, you know. We'll see. Seth Rogen is obviously the producer of this whole universe, so he has a good track record, and hopefully he doesn't just milk the franchise here. But we will have to wait and see. All right. Next up, apparently Daredevil on Disney Plus is a scam. So we got some tweets to go through. So this is, I guess, one of the guys that that works on like the tech side of production for the Marvel Netflix shows. He's responding to Winning Time on HBO being canceled, and this is what he had to say. Do I have to post the thread again about how our IATSE contracts to base wages and raises and conditions, vacations, holidays, pay on arbitrary seasons? So basically, I'm just going to keep reading. Never mind. And that canceling shows before season 3, rebooting shows, and all the nonsense is about undercutting workers. I worked on all of the Marvel Netflix shows, which all were canceled in season 2 or 3. Our contracts only give us full vacation pay, like 36 cents per hour's worked, or some shift on season 3 shows. For 4 years, I work 4 years of work. I never got. Sorry, I'm sorry. Am I crazy, or are these sentences just not well structured? 4 years of work. I never got a raise or vacation pay, like $20,000. And not only did they cancel Daredevil once crew got full raise and holiday/vacation pay, the Disney Plus reboot is back to season 1, IATSE contract terms. It's a fucking scam. I wonder if Steven DeKnight knows that. And this Steven DeKnight responded to this. He said, he does. It's an old Disney scam where they slightly rename a series to reset contract terms back to first season. Needs to be addressed by all the guilds/unions and crushed. So basically they're alleging that the reason why Daredevil is being labeled Daredevil Born Again is so that Disney can render the season back to season 1, and so that they don't have to pay their crew more wages and give them like paid vacation off and stuff like that, which generally happens when a show gets to season 3. And honestly, when this came out, I was like, damn. There have been like so many shows that I can think of as a kid where this has happened. Where like, do you remember like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody? How it eventually switched to Sweet Life on Deck, where they, instead of living in a hotel, they lived on a cruise ship. And even things like how Victorious then spun off into like Sam and Cat and stuff like that. I'm like, it's kind of interesting the way all that works, isn't it? Now, is that necessarily what's going on here? Honestly, I don't know, because from the fan perspective, we've been talking about how, is this Daredevil, this Matt Murdock, is this Daredevil the exact same Daredevil from the Netflix series, or is this a Daredevil that is just a variant of that Daredevil? Like, is this just the Matt Murdock variant that exists in the MCU, and the Netflix shows were in another universe? That's kind of the conversation that we've been having. It's been a bit unclear, and we've just been waiting for this show to come out to like either prove or disprove that. So from the fans' perspective, it's like there could be a story reason. Like, if this isn't the same exact Daredevil, then making it a season 1 of a show and not a continuation of the Netflix show does make sense. But maybe it is a variant of Matt Murdock, and they're literally just doing that so that they can name it a season 1 and not pay their workers properly. In which case, that is cringe and not cool. Especially like if part of the reworking is that they took out Karen and Foggy in order for it to be a different show. Like when you kind of think about it like that, it's like, it seems a little fishy. But also to be fair, that was a show that was made by Netflix, and do they necessarily, is it necessarily fishy of Disney to be like, I mean, we don't really want to take on all of your guys' burdens and all of your wages and all of that. Like, we want to start over fresh and do our own thing. I mean, that also could be a valid argument, but at that point, if you really want to start fresh, then you should have probably just rebooted Daredevil in the first place, or overall, and got in a new actor in there. Like, why are you bringing over familiar elements if you're not going to continue it? So yeah, at the end of the day, I do think I do think it's fishy, especially like if this show comes out and is very much in the same tone as the Netflix show, and it feels like the Netflix show, and there isn't like a particularly compelling story reason as to why they rendered it to season 1, then I do think I personally think it would have been shitty for them to do that and then not pay their workers what they originally would have been paid. I think that's super shady, super fishy, super cringe. So yeah, it's kind of a weird situation. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. All right, last story of the day. According to Jeff Schneider, Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie is apparently still happening. So this is coming from CBR. Although Waititi was merely joking about his movie's long development period, some online misconstrued his comments to mean that his Star Wars movie was dead. However, this is not the case, with the Hot Mike's Jeff Schneider via the Bespin Bulletin reporting, "It's not dead. Taika's turned in multiple drafts at this point, and other writers as well have touched it. Taika owes them, Lucasfilm, another draft after the WGA strike is over." So he says it's not dead, but like, does that really mean much? Like, maybe he's contractually obligated to turn in another draft, but we just have, I don't know, I'm looking at this from a broad point of view. This is a movie that was announced in 2020. What has Taika been doing? He's been doing a bunch of other movies and not making his Star Wars movie. It's like at this point, it's like I don't know if I even want to watch this movie. Like, I don't know if I want to watch a movie by a guy where it feels like the guy was like dragged kicking and screaming into making a movie that it kind of feels like he doesn't want to make, you know? And maybe this is just me misunderstanding how the movie process works. Maybe it happens a lot that directors are brought on and then, you know, it takes them a while to get a bunch of their other projects out of the way and then they finally get started on writing the script. Like, maybe that's just normal. But at least from where I'm sitting and from how I see it, it's like maybe he's contractually obligated to write them another script. But if Taika really wanted to make this movie, it feels like he would have just already, the scripts would have already been made because it's a movie that he wants to make. So, I don't know. Obviously, I think Jeff is a credible guy, and I don't think he's lying here. I just don't know if I buy that. I don't know if I buy that this necessarily, even if true, means that the movie is still happening. Like, I'm at the point where I think this movie is dead. Even if Taika turns in another script, I don't know if it's ever going to get into the production stage. So, that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And let me know what you thought about this episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup in general, because we are done. That's it. No more stories to talk about. Yeah, the writer's strike is still going on. Not going to lie, the stories do feel a little here and there, a little non-existent. It did get to the point where I thought, hey, let's talk about Rick Riordan and race swapping, because, bruh, it do be like that sometimes. So yeah, let me know what you thought about the about all these stories in the comments down below. And hopefully this strike is wrapped up soon so that we have stories to talk about. But hopefully it is wrapped up in such a way to where the writers and actors get fair pay, because that is obviously what's most important, not my little rinky-dink YouTube show. So, yeah, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.